Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif Boothe podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with a guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Simone Facey. She is the head of facilities at Raw TV, and we've known each other for about 7 years. She gave me one of my first jobs in TV, so it's great to have her on the show today. Welcome to the show, Sim.
Thank you, Cash. I'm glad to be here. I'm so happy to see you. No idea. Very
It's good
cool.
to see you. Thank you for coming on. So, like as I said, like you've been at Raw TV, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, about 10 years. Because I remember when I started there, you'd been there like 3 years. So that's crazy. And so, as the listeners have probably heard already, I had Dion a few weeks ago, and we got our positions at Raw TV for an organization called Creative Access. So I remember I didn't actually get the job, but you liked me so much that you created a role for me. So I was like very happy about
Good.
that. And I always say to people, like, during my career, like, that is the most diverse team I've ever had. Like, my line manager was black. We had Lena, who was Colombian. We had Rob, who was white. Luke, who was mixed race, half white, half black. Dion, and then myself. When I tell people that, they actually start laughing. Like, what do you mean? That was crazy. I'm like, yeah, I was very lucky and blessed to have that on my first experience, like in TV. And I was at Raw for like on and off for 2 years, and it was always very diverse. We had like, because we were runners are entry level positions. So when I come back, sometimes you had like a guy and a girl, or you'd have. I remember when I came back with Jess and Elizabeth, and that was a black girl and a mixed race girl as well, who's half white and half black. So Raw and you being at Raw definitely helped. I feel like get that foot in the door, and I feel like the Dion and I probably would have stayed there longer if there was opportunities available at
Yeah,
that time. But it's
yeah.
fine. Like we've done so well. So yeah. So tell us about you. How did you get started in film and TV?
Well, before I got into TV, I was working in music. I left school with my GCSEs and I didn't go to college or uni. So I went straight into retail. And I worked in retail for about 4 years or so before I realized that I couldn't do it anymore. Otherwise, I'll go crazy.
Oh, I
So
understand.
at that time, I pulled out the yellow pages, good old yellow pages, the actual book, and flicked through it and went there was a section called TV, media, and radio. And I literally just called every single number that was in there. And then in the T's, a company called Tough got back to me, a session agency. And they were only up the road from me. So I joined them. And it was a black owned company as well. So it was only four of us. And it was great. It was a great industry to be in. I loved music at the time. And it crossed over with television. And when I left, my grand passed away and I kind of felt like there was more I wanted to do. As much as I loved it, there was more that I knew I needed to do. So I needed to push myself out of Tough. And ended up joining an agency and started temping and temped through ad agencies, PR agencies. And then they called me for a job at ITN as an office manager slash receptionist, which is kind of the jobs I was temping at. And then I went and got the job before I left the office. I don't know. I mean, what can you do? I entered the room and they loved it. And I was there for like 6 years, and that was a baptism of fire, definitely for me. Especially coming from a company that was four people, black people, all from North London, going to ITN Factual, run by Philip Dampier, who loved Princess Diana, and most of our content was about the royals, and it was just white, loads of white people. And that was the first time I was like, okay, this is definitely a completely different idea of what I thought TV could be, but let me roll with it. And then I ITN just wasn't the right environment for me. It was just very corporate. They did the news there, they did Channel 4 news, they did all that kind of stuff. And yeah, the environment wasn't creative enough for me. So I left. I just left and started what did I do? I went online and sort of looked into like TV, scripted, and at the time just came across a guy who was writing a comedy himself, much like the stuff that you're doing. Just picked up his stuff, got his pad out, writing, just like reaching out to people. And we just connected online and we met up in a Starbucks somewhere I'd never been in Northwest London. And he told me all about his comedy, all about the script. And I just really wanted to help him. Young black guy called Samuel Benter. And I just really wanted to be a part of his idea. And he sold it to me. You know, he's got this energy.
Yeah,
You know
I know
Samuel, don't
Samuel.
you?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
best,
I know.
yeah.
He's such positive energy. Yeah, he can get you to sign anything, trust.
Listen, why is he not in sales? Like, he
Yeah,
needs to be doing
exactly.
something like that. I was hooked. I was like, yes, I believe in you. And then we started writing, and I just got so sucked into it because I wasn't working. I live alone. I left home when I was 17. I've been paying my bills all my life, and then the fear got to me, you know, and I needed to pay my bills. So then I reached out to the agency, and they found me an interview at Raw, and I went, not really wanting the job, to be perfectly honest, because I was having so much fun just being in this creative bubble. And then they called me, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I started. I know, right? You think I started. I was like, okay, I think I could probably do this. It's not like ITN. Everyone, it's definitely more creative. And I think I was intrigued by them. They're all super smart in a way that didn't particularly intimidate me, but I felt like, okay, I need to understand like what's happening. When I'm in the room, I want to understand what they're talking about. And I quite like that. I was interested. And then I've been there ever since. 10 years later.
Crazy
Goodness.
to think it's been that long, and it's been 7 years since Dion and I and Lena, we all worked together at Raw, and now everybody has gone on to do like so well. So yeah, so it's great to hear
Yeah.
your journey, because I love hearing everybody who's been on the show, that they've had all different journeys as to where they are, and so it's really good to get that. So you're now head of facilities. You've been head of facilities for a while, because I know you were just office manager, then you got that new position. So
Yeah.
what is it like being head of facilities at Raw TV, and what does, explain to like the listeners, like what is your like day to day?
Well, now my role's slightly evolved. So we brought in somebody who's now the office manager, which has
Right.
taken away a lot of my responsibility in the last couple of months. So now as head of facility, my job is really just to oversee the post-production side of things. You know, we have internal edit suites and we do a lot of developments and sizzles and those kind of stuff. I still pay the bills, so structurally I'm still responsible for the building and the leases. And we're kind of thinking about how to reuse the space. And I mean, during lockdown, people obviously been working from home, and it's worked for them in some cases, and we want to be able to give people the option to do that going forward. You know, so that's a project that I'm working on, and that we're trying to integrate with more D&I stuff, and what D&I means for us, we're still working out. You know, it's I'm really excited about where we're going with this, and I'm going to be across it as well with the other people in the company. So that's also a part of this evolving role. But essentially, my job is to be the person who is the go-to for everything as far as the operations of the business, and just to make sure everyone is okay and everyone's well-being is sound. You know, I hope people feel that for me anyway.
I think they do, because I remember being in the office. I think everyone knew to come to you about a certain problem and stuff like that, and so it's like you're the go-to. And I wanted to ask you, because I did an interview recently with this website called Creative Lives in Progress, and I mentioned you in it because a lot of the time they ask these dumb questions. I really don't like them. Like, who are some of your inspirations and blah blah blah. I just want to do film and TV. Like, I just find them really just odd.
Yeah.
And so thinking about it, I thought of like my time at Raw. Where did you come with that work ethic and like structure? Because that's something I have applied to everywhere I've gone. So I've gone to places where communication has been so poor, or they don't know how to manage people certain level, and I feel like you do a great job of doing that. And that's something which I think it was great early onset training for me in my career to have that like emplacement of knowing what goes on from A to B like every single day. Where did that come from? Because a lot of people need to have that doing productions as
Oh,
well.
gosh. I have no idea. I think, if I'm honest, it's probably my mum. You know, it's probably as the core of just my mum, and seeing my mum work hard. You know, and she worked hard all of her life, and she's still working hard now. And she's always told me that everyone shits and eats. Sorry, excuse my French. Everybody's exactly the same. You know, you treat nobody no different. So I've never been afraid to walk into the room and completely be myself, regardless of who's in there. And I think that's always benefited me. It's something that I've noticed in people, especially in TV, that they're never really their full organic selves. And yes, it's about being professional, but there's also a part of just sort of, I don't know, it's just closing that part of yourself off, and it's just something that I can't physically do. And I'm just aware of TV isn't just your directors. It isn't just your execs, you know. It is the caretaker that comes in at 1 a.m. because the alarm's going off and he calls me, Sim, you know, it's that guy. It's the cleaners that are there picking up all the mugs that everybody's left on the table, the 4 mugs that they've got that they never like to wash out. You know, it's all of those kind of things. It's the runners that come in, sweating buckets, you know, to try and people please and just to keep the office and everything else ticking over. And a lot of people, that all goes unnoticed a lot of the time. But it never goes unnoticed for me, you know, because I've been there, I've done that. Not the runner route, but I've been there, was in the toilets, in the kitchen, right, photocopying this, doing that, making the teas, you know, because I don't know, I just don't see why we shouldn't work that way. I don't see why we shouldn't give people the opportunity to be themselves when they come in. I don't see why we shouldn't push and try and inspire everybody that comes through the door. And for me, I think, especially coming from ITN and just seeing the lack of Black people that were there, to going to Raw and still seeing that, but also seeing the opportunity that I have to bring those in. I think that was a bit of ammo for me. And you and Lena and Dion and Luke and every, all the people of colour afterwards, I think I've not efforted, but I've intentionally really tried to get as many people who aren't already in the company in the doors, you know, and I would continue to do that.
Yeah.
And now I feel like Raw are understanding of that, and they see the benefit in that, and they also understand that, you know, they can't tell all the stories. You know, they can't tell the narrative for everybody. So they understand that they need to do some work on their part, which is really exciting for me. It feels like, okay, so I can have an effect on this company and not be a director or that producer. I can just be Sim still and have them hear me. You know, that's really been quite empowering this last year, definitely.
No, you
I
made
forgot the question. Sorry, Cash. I went off on one there, didn't I?
No, but it's right. It worked in well. It worked in well, honestly, because like you made some really good points of really owning it when you go into these workspaces. Because it's funny, Dion and I spoke about this when I interviewed her. Is that we were both very quite shy and reserved and didn't really know, especially me, because I knew that I was fine with my set core in the office, but it took me becoming independent filmmaker to actually have that confidence, because sometimes when you get into it, you know, you're told by people, oh, you should talk to this person, talk to that person. And you're like, but that person's this producer or that person's that exec, and you kind of get lost in it. But now I could talk to anybody because I've had to talk to every range of different type of people every day. So you just have to be confident, and it's something you have to grow and learn with. And yeah, I don't have any regrets not doing that. At least I learned how to do it, and I'm in that space now to be able to do it. So I definitely understand that. But sometimes I think as a person of color, you kind of feel like you can't say nothing or you don't know how you might be perceived. Because like, for example, one of my best friends is Muslim, so she wears a hijab. So she's felt that when she's gone into an interview for a production office job or whatever, she's felt them prejudging her because she's wearing hijab. So that already knocked her confidence times 10. But then I told her, okay, we don't have to go that route. You can do it independently. And now she's doing that. So I definitely understand that. And I made a good point about looking out for us in terms of like all the people of color who've been in, and I definitely felt that because we had that mothering role. You're just like, okay, talk to people, do this, or make sure that you're blah blah blah. And it was, you kind of look back and you understand that because you had to do your job, and we are representation of you. So it's like you want to make sure you got them in the door, but you've got to do a good job as well. And it's funny because I'm working with a director, and she's a white woman, and she said that when she tried to have a diverse crew, they didn't perform well. So then she just had to go back to the people she knew, and that's the issue. As soon as we are held to a higher standard than everybody else, so we have to just be on 100% at all times. We can't afford to mess up, and that's just the reality of it. Even though they try and be diverse, it's not always going to be like that. So yeah, so I definitely understand that point.
No, it's not always going to be like that, which is why I intend on people talking about it. And I think when you guys came in, or even before that, when there was a few work experience placements, I could see the, not discomfort, but the awkwardness within some people, you know? And that isn't just I wouldn't say just because you're black, but I think they don't know how to speak to some black people, or some people, like some black people come in and you're really intimidated. You're walking into an open office where there's 70 people, all of them are white. And as soon as you walk in, they go, shoo. And if you're not the courier, and now you're walking down the office, they're looking at you like that. It's overwhelming, you know? I get it. And so when you're told to, okay, go into that meeting room and ask them if they want a cup of teas,
my heart was racing like crazy. You didn't understand. I was like, okay, whoa. I remember my first day because I remember with my name, because it's Arab, so it's like people won't get it. So then it's like always that preconceived, okay, are they going to get my name? Are they going to get it? And there's so many different pronunciations of it. So I don't mind what people use. But I was like, oh gosh. But when you guys asked if you could call me Cash, that was fine because a lot of people don't ask. So that was great. So that just kind of everyone knew, okay, that's Cash and whatever. But it still took time. And then eventually you do that. So I definitely get it.
Oh, exactly. And also you want people, because I hate not abbreviations of names, but when people don't know how to say your name, so they just stop saying it, or they say excuse me, or they and then it's like they wave you, or just some random stuff.
Oh yeah, I had that.
But the point is, like, I understand in those moments, like when that guy does go into the room and he asks them if they want a cup of tea in that really low, scared voice. The impression that they get as well, he didn't really come across that well. He's not that confident. I'm not too sure if he's gonna. It's like I needed to break that. It's like you need to be around these guys way more than for them to feel more comfortable about seeing some more people like them in the office, and also for you to see them more often. So you know that timid, quiet guy from the guy that's got confidence but might be really nervous in that moment, or the girl that speaks broken English and everything. Right now, I feel like the office. I'm glad it doesn't surprise me. I'm glad that you referred to it as diverse, and see it in that way. I still feel the holes in it, and for me, it's more senior, it's more high up. I want to see the execs, like I want to see some execs of color, and I don't care where you're from, right? But I want to see some more execs of color. And I would like to see some of our content reflect that change too. And I think that that's also something that they're really not on board about, but they're really thinking about now.
That's really good.
Yeah, I think they're getting it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But great. So as you've been, because we've spoke about diversity at Raw, so as you've been in this industry for so long, what are some of the things you've learned navigating through it as a Black woman and just in general?
Cash, to be honest with you, I don't think I really even given this much thought until last year. I don't think I even realized what I was doing to navigate until last year. So it impacted me a lot because I felt complicit in a lot of things, even though you've just said that, I've done this, and I have, but I feel like I could have just been doing more. So I think for me, it's been, I honestly can't even pinpoint it. I know that, I think actually, if I'm honest, in the beginning, I definitely would dumb myself down a bit because I felt intimidated by how smart everybody was. And they all went to university and they all knew each other and all had these associations. So I don't want to say dumb myself down, but I would just, just sort of be the one that's just going to have the banks and not really talk about politics and talk about farming or whatever they're talking about because I ain't watching that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I feel a bit out of place. And that worked, actually. That worked because I wasn't a threat to anybody, I guess. And I could be in the room and be a part of conversations and they weren't really intimidated by me in any kind of way. But I think that then started to frustrate me, actually, because then they weren't really seeing me fully. They were still seeing a version of me. I think you guys probably saw more of me, actually, than some of the execs,
Right.
And I think slowly I'm sort of shaking that off, and I've been a part of more conversations because my role has changed as well. Because when I started, I was a PA/office manager to a very small office. Then we moved, the office was bigger. Then I had more execs to PA for. Then we brought in more PAs, and I was just the office manager. Then I went on production for a while. So my role sort of changed. So I became more involved in the company in every way, and had more direct contact with other execs and people. So I was sort of broadening out a bit more higher up to the point that I'm at now, where I'm in the room and people are listening to me, you know, which is I'm very aware of also, you know. And sometimes I still have the pangs of, oh, they're all so smart still, but then I just sort of snap out of that, you know. But otherwise, I think I think because I'm the kind of person who just enjoys life and moments anyway, and I never really saw like ITN especially is something that I was going to be at forever. So I was just really just observing and enjoying just taking things in, and just enjoying that, and I think that worked for me. Some people obviously come into television, they have an objective and they want to do this and they do that and they're really ambitious, and I wasn't like that. So for me, it was slightly different, I feel like. So it was probably a lot easier to navigate because I wasn't in that competitive lane, you know? But yeah, I think that's probably, yeah. But I see it in a lot of the people that come through the door, and I really do want to help them as much as we can. And yeah.
No,
does that answer the question?
Yeah, it did. Don't worry. No, because it is. I think George Floyd and the height of Black Lives Matter last year really affected people differently, and to make them look at themselves like, what am I doing to actually create change? I'm in this position, and that's good because now you can make that change because you are in a more senior level at Raw, so you can have more of an influence on what these execs are doing and what kind of choices they're making. So if they are going to create a show or a film or whatever, because Raw is so multifaceted, of course, you know, factual and scripted, then they can actually bring in people to actually do that. There's so many writers and directors I know who are signed to agencies. They can do it. Hey, I can float a bunch of recommendations, trust me. So like, and I totally so I totally understand that. And I think it's really about going to another level because like I've been at production companies where they promote themselves as being so diverse, and then when we did get picked up by a network and stuff, they just wanted to get somebody straight away, and then once they had hired the person, we're having conversations the next day and you're saying, oh, I didn't even think to find somebody who's Black or Asian. So it's like, if your first thought wasn't to find somebody who's a Black producer or Asian producer, then your thesis is just a lie. Because if you really wanted to, then you would have done it. I was the only Black person who was working in production, and you had another one who was an accountant. That doesn't count. You can get an accountant from any industry, you know, like that doesn't count to me. Like I'm working in development, like you can get anybody. So, because I have to admit, at Raw, like a lot of the diversity was in the accountants, the finance team. You know,
the accounts team is the most diverse team. I've told them this all the time, and I walk over and I give them like great contact. I'm so proud of how diverse their team is, and it's something that we can, you know, do across the business, and we are doing. And I think that give us a couple of years, and I think people will just feel the difference. Will feel the difference. But that's just us. We're just one company, you know. There's hundreds of thousands of companies, and a lot of them aren't going to change, and they're not going to put the same amount of thought and effort into it as much as we are. It's true. You know, and it's not just on this subject; it's many subjects, you know. But yeah, let's see. I'm excited about what's going to happen.
I am too. I'm looking forward to seeing the next steps out there. And I remember us years ago. No, go on. What was you going to say?
No, I was going to say, but it's not just production companies, broadcasters too, you know, because there's not a lot of pushback from, well, yeah, I guess there might be, you know, there's like, they have a lot of say in it too, as far as how you create things up, especially in the higher levels, and your execs and your directors. Sometimes they want a name and they push. So I think there's a lot of work on their part too. That was what I was going to say.
But I agree. But then there is enough, like, what was that? Noughts and Crosses, what came out last year. There was a director called Kobe Adam. He directed on that, and I've seen his progress from getting BFI funding. So there's names now. So there's quite a lot of names out there. There's Dreaming Whilst Black by Ajani Salmon, and that was a web series, won like over 30 awards, and now that's going on
Yeah.
BBC Three. So there's no real excuse, in my opinion. But
So it's also about looking at other types of content. It's not just looking at film directors, next film directors. Look at adverts, like look at music videos, and look at the talent there. There are so much talented people in those areas, and it's that kind of time and attention that I feel like we need to be looking into, and sort of seeing what's out there in those kind of spaces, as well as looking for the next one that's already in TV and film, because those. I know so many people who are making music videos and making corporate videos and stuff like that still, but not that level that we would hire. But as far as music videos and adverts and all that, the skills are there. Like, and these people are doing their own thing on the side, but you just need to know who they are, and then so on and so on. Like, it's the time it takes to do that, and the effort it takes to look into these people and find them. Just gotta make it and find the time.
I remember talking to you years ago, way back when I was working with you, and you always wanted to do comedy and write and stuff. Are you ever going to get back into that, or just do it like?
Ash, are you going to make me up like that? What happened to you? I am. Do you know what? I feel it more and more, and I feel yes is the answer. Good. Yes is the answer. I know it's going to come, and it's evolving itself. And what I don't want to do is effort into it. I don't want to force nothing.
Yeah.
I'm organically getting there. Listen to you. You literally put me on the spot now. I'm going to pull out a pad off this.
It's on record now. It's on record now. But the reason why I asked is because, like, some of the women who I've interviewed, they've had definitely similar journey to you, where they got a job in TV, just started working in it, like, and then once they actually started to focus on their passion, that's when their career really took off in another direction. Like, one girl, she just started writing. She worked like with, what was it? She started working with Channel 4. She did stuff with Star Wars, was working up that corporate route and stuff, and then quit because, she just didn't know her place in the industry, and then just focused on writing. Then when she started to focus on the writing, she started winning awards. And then now she's got a commission by Channel 4 just because of her writing and doing what she's actually passionate about. So yeah. I'm just saying, do on the side, I did it. It is hard work. I'm not going to lie, it is, but you never know, because like Issa Rae always said this, and I always quote her. She always said about the power of networking across, not just up, and that's what is always very important. Networking across is so important because you can find people who want to do the same thing as you, and then you build like that, and then that's how you kind of move up. So I'm just saying, I'll be checking in.
You're saying the right things, yes, you are. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Whenever I do the things that I'm passionate about, I know I always feel good and something always comes out of it. And I have written things in the past, and I have, I think I told you, like, I wrote a little short play once in like a little local thing, and I won an award for that. And I know that I love it, and I think that, not that I'm scared of it. I think what happened, the whole Sam Benter thing will happen again, and I will just go shoot, and I'll just get sucked into a little vortex, and I'll be like, bye, Raw, I'm off to write to be. It'll be like that. And I just need to gear myself up for that. But for now, I'm happy to just focus on this. And also, I'm being creative. What I haven't said yet is with Raw, they're allowing me to get really creative with it. So in the last year, I've made a couple of films for the company. One was called My Black History, which was with like 4 contributors, and it was about their Black history. It was a short thing, about 20 minutes long, that I produced and directed.
Oh,
and then we did.
Can you send it? I want to watch that.
Stop it! And then we did some Black chats, and we put those up on our internal workplace as like a short little film. And I'm going to be doing more of those. And hopefully we're going to be bringing in some people, some speakers, some authors, all those kind of people to talk to the company and talk to us.
Let me know, because I know so many people who do that, so I can talk with so many people. So yeah, that'd be good.
Right, I will do that. So I'm feeling that I'm able to have a bit of a creative release, actually, doing this as well. And yeah, it just feels really good. It just feels really good right now. So I'm
Amazing.
happy.
Good.
Yeah.
And lastly, what would you say is some of like the best advice you've received in your career so far, or working in TV and film?
Goodness. I've received so much advice actually. Um, good advice. Good advice would probably be something basic and admin that it probably wouldn't be advice actually. It would probably be looking at somebody and looking at their work ethic and learning from that. There's a woman called Emma Wood who is a production exec at ITN, and we both joined ITN around the same time. White girl from Birmingham, lovely, super smart, and totally professional. But she also was a great friend and enjoyed life and just had a really good balance. And I just saw how it pays off to do really good in your job.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It pays off to be really good at something.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just really good. And I wanted to be like that. I didn't just want to be the girl that everyone liked, that was in the office and they could just talk and have bands with, that was just there. I wanted to be the really good one. And I learned that from her. And that was things just basic down to how you budget stuff, how you speak to people, how you speak to your teams, how you organize your teams, just being a voice in the room, owning it as a female. Like, I got that just watching her. And I could say the same about Louise Norman at Raw, actually. She's somebody who I learned a lot from, again, just by watching her and hearing some of her stories, and just hearing about her journey and how she's got to where she is now. She's been doing this for, I don't want to age her, you know what I mean, but like 40 odd years, she's a pro. And she still doesn't really have the recognition that she deserves, but I see her work ethic as well. Yeah, but then also, I in the same breath, people who aren't necessarily my friends, I see them work in a way that's really unhealthy, and I know that I don't want that, and that's something that I like.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I don't want to like that. That's not the life. Like, you might think that this is TV and this is great, but if you look and you sound like that, nah, I'm all right. I'm all right. So he wouldn't actually necessarily be word advice. It would just be appreciating and learning from the women that I've come across in television. 100%.
I can relate because, like I said, with you as well, your work ethic, and I remember Dion as well. I always remember looking at Dion, and her work ethic was just amazing. She's so smart, and I'm not surprised that she's now development executive at BBC. Like, I'm not surprised. She's so talented. I remember always trying to high five. She's like, "Stop!" It's like, I can see it. Like, I can see it, and like, she's doing so well. And I totally understand that, looking at other people and being inspired, and I get inspired by everybody, and it makes me want to work harder and do what I'm doing. So I totally can relate to that, because sometimes it's not all. I don't think I've got good advice in TV ever. I remember one guy telling me, just go up to people and ask for teas. I asked them if they want teas. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's crazy. I'm like, no. First of all, I don't make good tea anyway. You taught me how to make good coffee, because the way I used to mess it up at Raw, because I don't know anything about hot drinks. So yeah, so trust me. So I was not about to do that. And then them talking about me like, oh yeah, he made a real bad cup of tea for me. Like, nah, sorry. But,
that ain't the one.
No, exactly.
Not that guy.
No, exactly. Well, thank you again, Tim, for coming on the show. It's been great having you on and sharing.
Thank you. Before you finish, Enda, let me just say that you inspire me, Cash. You really, really do. And your work ethic and your guts and your level of creativity, I just love it. And you honestly do inspire me. Every time I see something or read something about you, it gives me goosebumps just to see your intention, just to see you go for it, and just keep doing that. Just keep doing that. And regardless of how much money you make or how much fame you get, you will always feel amazing, and you will always be living out your best life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
get
I'm just
that.
so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's great again for having you on. Thank you again, guys, for listening to this podcast. You can follow me all on my social media. You know, there's a whole heap of them. I can't wait to repeat it. Thanks again, guys. Bye.